Good evening. Council acknowledges the Wadawurrung as traditional owners of this land, and I pay my respects to all elders past, present and emerging, and to all Torres Strait Islander and Aboriginal people who are part of the Greater Geelong community today. This meeting is being broadcast on the internet, and the recording of the meeting will be published on Council's website. So welcome everybody to our first council meeting of 2021, and tonight we're celebrating quite a milestone. This is the first time in more than 11 months that we've had members of the community here with us in the council chamber. So it's really lovely to see you all here, and welcome. We're delighted to have you along with us tonight. For those watching via the live stream, our audience members are here in line with capacity restrictions for City Hall, which means that numbers are limited. If you are interested in coming to future meetings, you can register your interest by calling 5272 5272, or you can email contact us at geelongcity.vic.gov.au. Feels as though we've had a really positive start so far to 2021 here in Greater Geelong. We've had lots of visitors to the city, and especially to our coastal towns. I can certainly attest to that in the Ocean Grove, Bowen Heads area. And this is absolutely critical for businesses trying to recover from the events of last year. And when you compare the situation in Australia with other parts of the world, we certainly have reason to be very optimistic about the road ahead, albeit we know that there might still be some challenges to come. The Council's certainly ready for a very big year, the first full year of our new term, and there is a lot that we want to achieve for the community. And that all starts tonight with some of the items on our agenda, so let's begin the meeting. We do have quite a few important matters on the agenda tonight, some procedural ones as well, and I know that councillors will be keen to speak on every item, but we do have to try and limit the time that we're all in the room together, so I will be asking again for strict adherence to the time limits by all councillors, please. Do we have any apologies to note for this evening? I don't think we do. Are there any requests for leaves of absence from councillors tonight? No, everybody's had enough of a break already. That's good. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest in relation to tonight's agenda?
Mayor, I have two conflicts of interest, one being item 1 with the submission to the Surf Coast as a result of one of the interested parties being a customer of the company of which I'm a director. And secondly, I have a conflict of interest with, thank you, Councillor Aitken, which is the Central Geelong Marketing Levy. I own a property in Yarra Street that...
Thank you, Councillor Contell. Any other conflicts of interest to be declared? No, thank you. If any conflicts do arise during the meeting, just let me know and we will note them at that time. Can I please have a mover and seconder to confirm the minutes of the council meeting held on the 15th of December 2020? Moved Councillor Grisbeck, seconded Councillor Mason. Thank you very much. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Now, while the gallery has been closed to the public until tonight because of the pandemic, we have still been accepting questions from the community online. We've received questions from 5 community members for tonight's meeting, and each person who's taken the time to ask a question will receive their response via email. And some of the 5, I think one of them has also registered to attend tonight's meeting, because you did need to register to attend the meeting tonight. But for the record and for transparency, the following people sent in questions to us. Firstly, Ian Rabone about dogs in Ocean Grove. Palanasame Thanjagudin from Armstrong Creek Sporting Facilities. Cheryl Au, Food Organics and Garden Organics Bins. Angela Mangan about the Geelong West development. And Elizabeth Crowe about Tivoli Drive. And I believe we have Elizabeth Crowe in the audience, so I would like to invite Elizabeth to come forward if she would like to ask her question in person. Welcome, Elizabeth.
I'm doing this, so
welcome.
Let me know if you can't hear me or whatever. My first question speaks to road safety issues identified as being of great concern to residents of Tivoli Drive since the spending of over $4 million to cut Tivoli Drive through to Port Arlington Road. We have seen Tivoli Drive very quickly go from a quiet semi-rural drive in February 2019 to becoming an inappropriately designed thoroughfare, which has seen retail, Woolworths, trucks, deliveries and other heavy vehicles use a small residential class street multiple times weekly. Residents report increasing noise pollution levels vehicles as these vehicles traverse the newly installed speed humps. We wonder how Council's outdated Road Safety Strategy 2012 to 17 play into Council's unwillingness to apply the principles of this strategy to our new roads. Residents have seen an increase in incidents of local and community speeding and dangerous hooning behaviour, causing residents to report feelings of increase in mental health symptoms and fears for their children's safety. A father of primary school-aged children in Tivoli Drive has recently reported rushing out to snatch his child back from the road just in time before he was hit by a speeding car. Luckily he wasn't. It's only a matter of time before a truly tragic event and loss of life becomes a reality. I myself have been compelled to invest in expensive double glazing for my front windows in hopes to dampen the noise pollution issue. Residents want to see Tivoli Drive closed until the appropriate road design is implemented. Residents want to see mobile speed cameras installed as a deterrent. Residents are struggling to accept that full traffic engineering assessment and road safety audits were completed before the so-called Tivoli Drive North-South Road project was signed off with Council and authorities. When is our Council going to live up to their own self-professed commitment to policy and planning? And I quote from our Council Plan 2018 to 22, putting our community first, under strategic priority heading Plan Sustainable Development. In lines with policy, would it not have been a better decision by our Council to consider the impacts on Tivoli Drive residents when spending millions of taxpayer dollars opening up Tivoli Drive to Port Arlington Road, disturbing local green spaces and valuable community shared spaces such as Bellarine Rail Trail and Kaluas Golf Course? We refer to key priority improving the environmental performance of new developments using planning controls. And we ask what planning controls? And key priority preserving nature reserves, rural and coastal environments. Did our Council consider our already established nature reserves and shared community spaces before bulldozing through them to cut Tivoli Drive through to Port Arlington Road? How do we move our Council to support our Kaluas community to sustainably preserve our unique coastal environment and imply appropriate planning controls to ensure safe and livable communities and streets? Is our Council living up to its own strategic plan? And how do we measure our Council's performance against these specific priorities?
Thank you, Elizabeth, for those questions, and we certainly have heard an awful lot from the residents at Tivoli Drive, and we do thank you all for letting us know, and I know that certainly the Bellarine Ward councillors have followed up as well and tried to make sure that all your questions and complaints are being addressed. I do have, I think we have Debbie Leeson-Raby with us tonight to answer the questions. She's still on her way here. Is there any way we can get some of Elizabeth's questions answered in the meantime?
I can respond to that, Mayor, if you wish.
Yep, I know. I have a list of things that have been done here, but I would far be it for me to seem to take credit for it, Gareth. So
yes.
It would be great if you could actually explain what's happened. That would be terrific.
Happy to do that on behalf of the Director of City Services. So thank you for the questions, Elizabeth. And as the Mayor mentioned, there's certainly some serious issues, and we're well aware of those and been listening very closely to the community and acting on that. Since the opening of Tivoli Drive, we have implemented a number of traffic calming measures, including the installation of the speed humps and parking restrictions. These will be reviewed in March to determine if they've been effective and if other measures are still required on top of that as well. Road safety audits were performed at the functional design stage of the project and when the road was opened up. These were approved by Regional Roads Victoria, or Vic Roads, as you probably know it. And Victoria Police, of course, as you'd be aware, are responsible for the enforcement of the speed limits and installing speed cameras. Following the traffic counts conducted in mid-2020, the City did contact Victoria Police regarding the speeding and those concerns, and we've followed up again this week to pass on those community requests for increased enforcement and a presence from the police force in the area.
Thank you, Gareth, and I'll reiterate too that I've called Victoria Police and spoken to the local police person in charge of that about the speeding as well. So it's something that we're certainly not silent on, Elizabeth, and we are continuing the pressure. So we appreciate your questions, and it's certainly very healthy to keep asking them because we will stay on this one. So thank you very much for taking the time and coming in. Councillor Sullivan, did you? Oh, second question? Yep.
Sorry, did you? Sorry.
No, go for it.
Okay, here Goes the second question. All right, so my second question also speaks to road safety issues identified again as being of great concern to residents of Tivoli Drive and the wider Coulewas Estates and Jetty growth area. Petitions have already been signed by hundreds of residents with a focus on calling on our council to seal Corriel Road and install a roundabout at the Tivoli Drive Corriel Road dangerous intersection. We have seen near misses as vehicles run the gauntlet as they approach the intersection from Corriel Road, not being able to see left and right when the fields are full of canola growth, too high to see if the traffic is approaching until a vehicle is almost into the intersection. If our council is to live up to its own community engagement policy principles, and I quote, why is engagement important? Listening to and considering the needs, priorities and expectations of our community before making decisions has long been ingrained in our practices. We ask, really? The Tivoli Drive community has made multiple attempts to engage with council and authorities on this issue with little success, and the policy reads, we believe it is critical that the decisions which shape the region's livability and prosperity are informed and influenced by the people and communities who live, work, visit or do business in the region. Effective and authentic community engagement promotes greater trust, builds stronger relationships and leads to better outcomes for city and the community. Best practice community engagement helps people and groups understand the rationale behind our decision-making processes. Well, we who live in Tivoli Drive have been given no sensible or best practice rationale behind Council's decision to keep Corriel Road unsealed and dangerous. Community expect our council to practice their own policy work towards making our local roads safer, and I quote from City of Greater Geelong Council Plan 2018 to 22 under strategic priority heading Improved Health and Safety of our community, and at key priority working towards having the safest roads in Victoria. This policy strategy is clearly not being applied to Corriel Road. Most residential T intersections now have roundabouts installed as a standard and proven safer traffic management strategy. Why has a roundabout not been installed at the Tivoli Drive Corriel Road intersection? And to the question of Corriel Road remaining unsealed. We as residents and ratepayers cannot reconcile with the hundreds of thousands of ratepayer dollars being spent on a regular basis, regrading and applying dust dampening materials to keep Corriel Road maintained as unsealed. The road has deep holes, especially during the wetter months, and vehicles travel at high speed along the road, dangerously overtaking other vehicles. The road has soft shoulders which cause vehicles to slip and slide around on its unsafe and sometimes corrugated surface. What, if any, traffic engineering assessment and road safety audits have been completed in relation to Corriel Road? Finally, why does Council continue to provide no sensible explanation about why a handful of residents who live in Corriel Road are able to dictate terms to the rest of the road-using Coulewas community? And when will it listen to the majority of residents and road users and respect our request to seal Corriel Road? Sealing Corriel Road would demonstrate your commitment towards having the safest roads in Victoria to our Coulewas community.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Again, very good questions and very well articulated. Gareth has a response to that. It is a matter of timing, I believe. So, Gareth, over to you.
Right. Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for the second question, Elizabeth. Firstly, on the petition, we're unaware of that petition as yet, but certainly we're more than happy to accept any petitions from the community, so we look forward to that one coming forward on to seal the road in the future. There has been obviously regular correspondence with several of the residents in the area regarding the concerns of Tivoli Drive, but in coming weeks, traffic islands will also be installed at Corriel Road and Tivoli Drive intersection to help control movements at this crossroad. Important to note, a traditional roundabout would not fit at that location, that site, so that's why they're looking at that treatment at the moment, and we result in vehicles actually driving over it rather than actually doing what we aim for it to do, is achieve to go around. That's okay. No, I appreciate you raising your point still. Certainly this would raise further noise issues with residents living near the intersection and may not effectively reduce the speed at the intersection. Hermsley Road and Corriel Road are local access roads in the farming zone. We inspect and maintain these local roads in accordance with our road management plan. An important point, as stage 2 of the Jetty Road growth plan progresses, the section of Corriel Road Within the plan, Tivoli Drive to McDermott Road will be sealed by the developer at their cost. Corriel Road will be closed west of the development and access to Hermsley Road will be via the new estate. Vehicles will not be able to access Hermsley Road directly from Corriel Road.
Thank you, Gareth. That's quite an interesting answer, I imagine. Elizabeth, were you aware of the plans into the future about what will happen with that?
I was, but not the specifics of that plan.
Might be worth us organising
Yeah.
a briefing with the community, I think, and just so that you can see the timing of everything and when things will happen, because it could just be a case, it could be a case, and I take your point, a very uncomfortable and sometimes dangerous timing issue, but there seems to be a solution down the track. So maybe we can take that offline, Gareth, and set up a community information session with Guy or something.
Definitely,
similar.
Mayor. Look, Elizabeth, if it's okay with you, we'll grab your contact details straight after this and we can make a time to run you through that with other residents.
Great.
Real, yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate your time. Do we have anybody else in the gallery tonight who's submitted a question online who would like to ask their question? Is Angela here? No. There was a hand up from the fellow in the middle, and then Tom's got his hand up too. So please come forward. Perhaps the fellow in the middle. We just have to wait until the sanitising. I think this fellow first, Tom, you're second. Okay. Are you registered? You're registered, aren't you? Because you're in there. You didn't ask a question online, did you, Tom?
This
Question is that?
Kylie.
Are you registered?
Good evening, councillors. I nearly said fellow councillors, Eddie, and that's wrong. Look, we're really here. We're here seeking your support. This is a severe issue not just from one or two people, but when you look at the growth in that particular area, to the eastern side of this notorious Tivoli, you look to the east and it's full of people and it's full of tradies and they're coming every day, as you would well know, Jim. But when the western side's developed, and that's, I don't know what the figures are, someone's saying 5 years, Tivoli Drive needs to be looked at before that. Why? Because it would be the most dangerous road. I don't know. Look, Madam Mayor, do you mind if I ask who amongst our fellow councillors,
knows the road.
who is familiar with that road? 1, 2, yeah. Is that a hand up? That's a hand up. Good. Okay, so it's probably one of the more dangerous roads that we'd want to see. Yeah, we'd want our kids to grow up on. And when you can't park on the side of the road, you've got kids, and there's a lot of young families in that area. You know, they're buying small blocks, small houses, bringing the family up there. And of course, you know what kids are like. They just jump out of a car. They've got no idea of traffic. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Not only that, but also the footpaths. I don't want to see anything like what's happened in Sydney. I know it was a little while ago where 4 kids were killed because of some dumb driver. And I can see that happening. The hooning down there, it's unbelievable. And there's it's a litany. We know it happens all the time. And then when you get the heavy traffic, we don't even have buses down there. The buses don't want to come down there. You speak to the public transport people, and they say, no, we're not interested in going down there. There's no space for buses. So really, we just need your help. We really do need your help. You know, it's a serious issue. There's a host of issues that I guess we've all seen at various stages. Not so much there, everywhere there's growth. And we're looking at more growth and more growth down there. But probably the biggest single challenge we've got today is that is being used as the alternative route through Drysdale, not the bypass to go to Port Arlington, but there is a fair majority of traffic of all shapes and sizes going down Tivoli. Unsuitable. it's not fit for purpose. So thank you for listening. Look for your support. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Tom. Point taken. And we will stay on that one. Thank you for doing the prep in between. Sanitisation expert.
Hi, my name's Austin Swain.
Welcome, Austin.
Thank you. I own a property on the corner of Horseshoe Bend and Mount Dunedin Road. I'm a farmer. I would just like to know why that area has been into the Surf Coast distinctive area. I can't see any reason why it should be whatsoever. I'm a farmer at Freshwater Creek. I use this paddock. I used to use this paddock as to keep my stud ewes, but I've got residential to the north, rural residential to the south of me. I have had 3 dog attacks in the last 2 years. 2 are pending court cases through the council. The lady next door has been traumatised by these dog attacks. I've lost 5 of my ewes so far. You say, oh, well, let's do some cropping. All I do get is complaints about dust. If I spray the weeds, I think people think I'm putting 2,4,5-T in it. And really, the only reason I can see why this would be included in it is because you want a green wedge. The green wedge, for me to be a farmer, I cannot be a farmer on that property. I had people coming through my property the other day, a group of family mushrooming. I've never seen a mushroom in my face ever. It's just, it's all very well to say you want a green belt, but a green wedge, but if you want people to farm it, it's just not on. I just, I get really, really depressed about it, to tell you the truth. The question I would like to ask is, are you going to support the Mount Dunedin area to be included in the distinctive area landscape?
Very good question, Austin, and it's actually the first item on our agenda tonight. We're talking about our submission, so if you would like to wait in the gallery, then you'll probably hear some conversation about exactly that topic.
Okay.
So,
if I could make a suggestion, I know it's a thing, but if you wanted to have a green wedge there, put it rural residential, put a 200-metre buffer between us and the Surf Coast, get the developers to pay for it, put a bike track through there, it would look fantastic. But that's a sensible idea, isn't it?
It is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming in. Do we have any more questions from the gallery, or are you happy to simply listen and watch? A hand up, that's great. Welcome. If you can just tell us your name when you come up, that would be terrific.
Settle down. Madam Mayor, my name's Peter King, and I live at Whites Road in Mount Dunedin, and I'm here in relation to the Surf Coast Dole. First off, I'd like to request that it's only a 2-page article. It's related to the questions I'm now going to ask, and just maps on the back so that people that aren't familiar with what I'm talking about can refer to those maps. So I've got one each, if it's possible, to hand them around to all councillors.
Indeed,
so
yes.
they
Thank you,
refer
Jake.
to the questions and the maps. Thank you very much, Madam.
Thanks, Peter.
While we're waiting, I'd like to welcome our new representative for Cardinia, Councillor Belinda Maloney. Where is she? Hi, how are you?
Thank you, Jake.
I hope we have many fruitful discussions in the coming months. Left for me, Jake, because I can't
Okay, we
ask the
might
questions.
read as you speak, if that's
Yes,
okay, Peter,
that'd be
in the
good.
interest of
Thank
time.
you. Right, my opening statement is landowners within the Mount Dunedin Lower Armstrong Creek corridor, which is referred as the MDLACC, would like to express appreciation to all COGG councillors for advocating and conveying the feelings of landowners with the council resolution to not support the inclusion of the MDLACC within the Surf Coast Dell declared area. I know we were unsuccessful. The Minister gave us the no, so be it. And I also understand that the Dell is there and we can't get rid of it. And all the MDLACC landowners know that and accept that as well. It must be noted that 95% of the MDLACC landowners, not the landowners, I don't know what the process, not a number, oh, okay, in the minutes that you're about to refer to, it refers to not a number as quoted in the COG submission to Surf Coast Dell. In actual fact, it's 95%. We don't believe it should be referred to as just a number. So that 95% objected to the implementation of the Surf Coast Dell over their land holdings. The City of Greater Geelong minutes do not provide a true picture of the concerns and angst held by the MDLACC landowners in regards to the transparency of the Dell declaration process. Point 7, background, in the minutes that are to be read later, or the total non-existence of involvement by any MDLACC landowner in the Phase 1 or Phase 2 community engagement Surf Coast Dell processes. Topic 1. If the City of Greater Geelong local strategic planning work in relation to the logical inclusion process for the MDLACC deems it is appropriate for the current Armstrong Creek permanent settlement boundary adjoining the Armstrong Creek growth corridor be repositioned to the south, even to Mount Dunedin or Lower Dunedin roads, without incurring any adverse influence on the intentions of the Surf Coast Dell. Question 1. Will there be a requirement by COGG planning to nevertheless implement a break of some form on the north side of Mount Dunedin, Lower Dunedin roads, considering DELP has already declared the low volcanic rise of Mount Dunedin's lower gradients on the southern side of Mount Dunedin, Lower Dunedin roads and within the Mount Dunedin-Thomson Valley Plains to be the protected urban free green break between City of Greater Geelong and Surf Coast Shire townships, Geelong, Torquay, Jan Juc. Topic 2. The current Armstrong Creek urban growth boundary has been adopted as stated by DELP as the current northern boundary until the local strategic planning work for the logical inclusion process for the MDLACC has been finalised. Question 2, Part 1. Will land holdings within the MDLACC, namely land holdings adjoining the Mount Dunedin, Lower Dunedin roads, be excluded from being considered for incorporation within a new permanent urban growth settlement boundary, even when they possess no viability as economic farming land, have no nature-based tourism potential, and possess no natural resources for extraction purposes? And Part 2, will or could consideration be given to sanctioning smaller, semi-rural living as raised at an 18th of June 2020 meeting with Jess of COGG Planning, and also at that meeting was Councillor Harwood and Councillor Maloney, of smaller, semi-rural living within the COGG Mount Dunedin, Lower Dunedin precincts as per the existing semi-rural living in Williams Road and Russells Road, which can be efficiently and effectively maintained because of their smaller size and provide an urban-rural transition as quoted by DELP, which supports the regionally significant landscape setting of the Mount Dunedin-Thomson Valley Plains. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
It might have been convoluted.
No, it's fair, and as you know, we won't make too many comments at this point, but I wondered whether Gareth would like to address some of those questions, because I know we didn't support the inclusion in our original piece. So go, Gareth, if you've got some comments, that would be useful.
Just a couple of short responses, Mayor, and thank you for the questions, Peter. And again, as you know, the officers are always happy to continue engaging with yourself and the group as well, because there's a lot of complexity in what you're just referring to there, and obviously multiple processes, and even with the Surf Coast Dell, obviously still not at the outcome either yet. So we can't totally predict what it might say in the end, so we can't really forecast what we may do in the future and what restrictions or impediments it might make or not. But with the green break, I guess what we can comment is the existing council policy. And the green break between Geelong and Torquay is a key part of existing strategic planning policy for the southern part of the city, where the boundary exists at the moment. So, and the SPP, the Statement of Planning Policy, reaffirms this policy position. So what it does do at the moment in that draft is just reaffirms council's existing position of that urban growth boundary and a green break from that point at this stage.
Doesn't prohibit council, that doesn't prohibit council from actually proposing to DELP any further future land planning development type activity.
You have made correctly reference through, as we see the SPP and our submission the council has considered today, refers to the logical inclusion process, which the council does propose, subject to C395 amendment being approved by the minister at some stage this year, to be able to progress later on this year. So it certainly doesn't exclude that. But you did also in the questions, and I appreciate you providing them later today, so we could have a bit of a look at that. And some of the other points is around the semi-rural farmlets and the 2 acres type opportunity in this current green break area. And so some comments on that is certainly small farmlets, they can be inefficient from a land use perspective, and they can lead sometimes to land management issues as well, as most people are familiar in the peri-urban areas, particularly near other rural farming, but also in the residential areas. It is too premature at the moment to make any commitments as to if and when and what form any changes to the boundary would be until the strategic planning work's been undertaken, to set the permanent boundary of Armstrong Creek. And as we said, this work will be undertaken after the C395, if and when approved by the minister. But like I said, we're more than happy to continue the conversation with you, in the very near future about what the processes look going forward.
Dick, Gareth. All landowners understand and accept exactly what you have said, but a precedent has been set within Williams Road and Russells Road as to small rural living, and we would like to put that forward as probably an example of what can be done within the green break. Thank you very much,
Peter.
Madam Mayor and Deputy Mayor Sullivan. I appreciate the time to present.
You're very welcome, and thank you for presenting. It's really nice to have people back in the gallery again, but normally I don't allow the Q&A piece. You ask and we answer and that's it, but it's the first time back, so we're being a little relaxed. One more question? Yes, young lady in the green.
I'm used to that.
A necessary process. Thank you.
That's
Welcome.
Sorry, I'm Cherie Cook. I am a resident at Tivoli Drive, and I guess to be specific, I just want to paint a bit of a picture for you of what it's like to be a resident on Tivoli Drive. A couple of years back, I was fortunate enough to move up from Melbourne and lived in the Mount Dandenongs, where there was, hustle and bustle didn't exist. So when moving here to Curlewis, I chose Tivoli as a specific place because I had the outlook and the guarantee of 5 years of a green band opposite me. And that was enticing. It was exciting to know that I'd be moving into a peaceful community that was going to be a safe place to create a family one day. So to then move into my brand new home, first home that I've ever built, very exciting, and to then see this extension created of opening up Tivoli Drive to the Port Arlington Highway, which we thought awesome. 2 minutes that are going to be shaved off our time to reach the Port Arlington Highway. It was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. We now wake up to the sound of trucks roaring down our drive. We wake up to the hoons, obviously the tradies, they've got a louder car, they have utes, they have trailers. And, you know, my partner, he has a trailer himself, so I get it, that's required for his work. However, the guarantee of a peaceful community has not been given to us. And that's really disappointing as a first home buyer to move into this property and to go, oh, my expectations have been dampened tremendously. I know that the given, I guess I call them band-aid fixes, to be honest, the speed humps that were placed, we had one right outside our house, so not only did we have to hear the hoons as it was, we then had an increase of volume from the speed hump, which, thank you, it was removed, and I greatly appreciate that because it has made a difference. But again, it's a band-aid fix. It's not a long-term fix, and we understand that it's going to take time, and I get that. However, we purchased this land, our homes, with a guarantee that has not been given to us. So we need the help of the council. We need your support, because at the moment it feels like it's just being brushed under the carpet, and that's unfair. And to be a young homeowner and to start questioning already if, should I sell my place, should I move on, should I find somewhere else, that's horrible, and I've only lived in there for a year. So I really wanted to give you a picture of what it feels like to be there and to be scared to want to take that next step of developing a family and having a family there, because it's not safe. I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you, Cherie. It's really important that people like you come in and share that with us, because we don't want people who are unhappy in this region. So thank you for choosing to share and enlist our support before you sell your property. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Much appreciated.
Thanks for coming in. And we will definitely stay on it, and staying in touch with us does actually get results as well. Is there anybody else that has a question? I think there's only one person that hasn't asked a question yet. You can make... Yeah. Yes, just you can, because we haven't used up our 45 minutes yet. We have 5 more minutes left of question time, so...
Not Trent. I have a submission here in relation to DELP's request for response to the Distinctive Area and Landscape Declaration.
Yep.
What I'd like to do is actually hand it obviously to Gareth. I've only got the one copy,
yep.
But if it's possible that a copy could be made and handed to especially the Cardinia Ward, my Cardinia Ward councillors, especially Councillor, should I say Maloney? Sorry about that. To try and bring her up to speed with what we're trying to do, where we've been, and hopefully where we're going.
Absolutely. Jake will take that, I'm sure, and we'll make some copies here. Thank you,
Peter.
Thank you
very much. I appreciate
Thanks for
that.
making the time. Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for questions and comments. It's been a nice reintroduction of having people that are not just councillors and council officers in the gallery. So thank you again. That concludes question time for this evening. We now move on to petitions, and I think there's a lot of petitions too. You can tell we've had a break. It's been piling up, the work, I think. Okay, I think first, one at a time, I guess, around the room, almost 5. Councillor Murray, you said you had 2, so I'll start with you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have 2. The first is in relation to Allen Street in Newtown. And I think there's about 40 signatures there in support of perhaps engineers visiting the street to have a look at the issues there. Allen Street runs off Shannon Avenue. The first section of it is sealed. It's a no-through road, and the remainder road is dirt, and to these residents dust, and so they have issues with the dust, the drainage, and they're seeking council support for at least the engineers to visit that street and come up with some remedy for those people who live there and surrounding streets as well. So that's Madam Mayor, that's Allen Street, Newtown, traffic issues.
First one, Dean will take those. Thanks, Dean.
The the second is we've got a similar flavour tonight, is from the residents of Laurel Bank Parade in Newtown, and I think it's about 95% of residents have signed this, and they're experiencing traffic issues in that street. The street runs between Packington Street and Latrobe Terrace, and like a number of those streets near them, it is in fact used as a rat run by a number of speeding vehicles. There is the signs at each end of Lower Bank Parade, local traffic only, but they're effectively ignored, and traffic is going off Latrobe Terrace up Lower Bank Parade to Packington Street, and in reverse down Packington Street, and turning right into Lower Bank Parade and travelling through to Latrobe Terrace. It's not a particularly wide street, it's not particularly well lit. There's certainly trees, it's a beautiful street overhanging the street, and I myself have witnessed a number of trucks that use that residential street to transverse, which is not ideal. So those residents of Laurel Bank Parade are seeking the council to examine and resolve the inappropriate and dangerous use of Laurel Bank Parade. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Dean will take that one as well. Councillor Cuntell, you have another.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I have a petition from a number of residents. About 12 have signed this petition in relation to a proposal from the City of Greater Geelong to install some raised pedestrian crossings on the corner of Kilgore Street and Swanston Street. The residents are asking that Council reconsider that proposal and perhaps look at a different solution. They're concerned that the raised pedestrian crossings will impact on neighbourhood amenity, also creating unacceptable noise pollution for those that are living in that area, affecting their sleep and normal way of life. So I table this petition to go to officers and ask them to review that.
Thank you, Councillor Cuntell. Thank you, Dean. Councillor Nelson, did you also have one?
Yes, Madam Mayor. This is from the residents of Warralilly, Armstrong Creek, and more specifically from Joe Orcamp. And it's a petition for a skate park / BMX bike track for Warralilly / Armstrong Creek on that side, not the Mount Dunedin side. Specifically, that's what they've asked for. And it's over 200 people requesting the skate park and BMX bike track. So one of the problems with development is you've got to keep up, and council's not keeping up. So that's another one of the things that are on the agenda is a skate park down there, because people saying to me, and I'm sure to other councillors, they're sick of going to Warm Ponds and to Torquay. So 200 signatures is pretty good.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Nelson. And Councillor Maloney, you have one too.
Mayor Asher, I wish to table a petition here over 200 signatures on behalf of concerned constituents within the Cardinia Ward. This petition is in opposition of a planning permit for the construction of 13 dwellings and in total a 15-lot subdivision at the 212 Bailey Street, Grovedale. I understand there's been several oppositions and objections that have also been submitted to the nature of this development. Thank you for your submission, everyone who has contributed. Thank you.
Councillor Maloney. Thank you, Dean. Any other petitions? No, it's been a very active summer, clearly, with the signing of projects. Okay, we move into section B, reports. And item 1 is the Council's submission to the Surf Coast Distinctive Area and Landscape, the DAL, Phase 3 public consultation. Councillor Cuntell is now excusing himself as he has his conflict that he declared, so we'll just wait for him to leave. And this item is to be moved by Councillor Grisbeck and seconded by Councillor Harwood. Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you know, tonight we are being asked to consider endorsing a submission to the Surf Coast DAL, which is the Distinctive Area and Landscape Public Consultation. as it declared an area, includes City of Greater Geelong land in Mount Dunedin and Brimley, which we heard earlier today. In 2019, the council resolved that it didn't support including this area in the north of Mount Dunedin Road, following concerns from landholders, which we have heard again tonight. The Minister for Planning noted our position early in 2020. However, it wasn't removed from the declared area. So we are being asked to support this proposal. Now, this proposal has in it the feedback by the landholders that we were given, and also it also states what we tried to do for the landowners in there as well. So we have put in this submission that we do not support the inclusion of the area in the north of the Mount Dunedin Road within this DEL declaration, the Surf Coast DEL declaration, and Council has a resolution to support that position. This submission, I'm pleased to move, only that it puts our council's position forward to the consultation, during the consultation process. This submission it outlines those concerns about transparency and also a lack of consultation. What this submission will do is provide the report to the Minister for their process, and they'll be considered by the DEL's Standing Advisory Committee. So in short, Madam Mayor, this submission by the City of Greater Geelong it covers our policy position in terms of the DEL, but it very clearly states that the residents on our side of the boundary are not best pleased about the position that they find themselves in, and they're not best pleased about the lack of consultation and transparency. So I'm going to be supporting this submission because it really is clearly stating to the Minister the position in which our residents find themselves.
Councillor Grisbeck, very well explained. Councillor Harwood.
Madam Mayor, I think that's been very well articulated by Councillor Grisbeck in the position that Council is looking to recommend this evening. Our Director Gareth Smith responded to some questions earlier, which I thought were also very helpful. Again, clarifying some of the questions that have been raised in recent times. That was, thank you, Gareth, it was very helpful. And I think, again, we've got another public consultation process, which I think can only benefit all involved, because early days that wasn't the case and that caused concern, but now we have a far greater transparent process that will allow all submissions to be considered, so that's important. And we're still waiting for the Minister to sign up from the 395 piece of work amendment. So we're still waiting for work to come back from the Minister. So it's layers of process that we are involved in at the moment, and they will continue for some time. But hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have a far greater view of what may be occurring in a particular precinct of Geelong. Thank you.
Well said, Councillor Harwood. Any other comments on this one? Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't speak too long, but Councillor Harwood and former Councillor Maloney, we went to a meeting in Armstrong Creek, I think from memory, Councillor Harwood, and most of the people that were there didn't know the meeting was on, and it was actually by chance that they turned up to the meeting because of word of mouth. The local member wasn't there. It was very, very messy, to say the least. And I haven't spoken with anyone who supports this so-called logical inclusion. There's no need to make this messy. 95% of the people don't want it. No one I've spoken to actually wants the boundary there. They prefer the Thompson Valley. And that is a distinctive area landscape. It is. Mount Dunedin Road isn't. The only concerns that this should be raising is down in Spring Creek, and that has nothing to do with this council. So why bring us into this mess? I don't understand. It needs to be south of Mount Dunedin Road, and then it's completely in charge of the Surf Coast Shire. So hopefully Council's wishes will be taken heed of, although I'm not going to hold my breath. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Any other comments on this item? No, I think you explained it so well, Councillor Grisbeck. It's come back to you to close.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a difficult process. It's a difficult position for the residents, let alone council, to be put in. And I think I'd like to thank Gareth Smith and his team for really coming up with the submission that really clearly says what our residents are saying to us, and it clearly says to the Minister that, you know, the things that we think are within our policy we do make comment on, but it very clearly states that our residents are not pleased at all that they've been included, let alone what's going to happen to their land in the future. So we will keep an eye on this one coming up very clear, and I'm sure the Cardinia Ward councillors will be keeping us, rest of us councillors, updated on what's going on there. So we appreciate you coming in and telling us about that, and all the emails that we have received in relation to that we have read. So I would like to say thank you again. That's nothing further, Madam Mayor.
Absolutely, and I totally agree. Thank you for keeping us connected. So we encourage you residents to stay in close touch as you are. So we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Okay, item 2, Central Geelong Marketing, intention to declare special rate. Thank you, Austin. Thank you, Peter. Councillor Cantell is staying out of the room for this one. Councillor Aitken.
I'd like to move a deferral, Madam Mayor, number 2.
Okay, you want to move to defer this item? Okay, all those in favour... Oh, do we need a seconder?
Need a seconder, yeah.
I'm happy to second the deferral move. All those in favour of deferral? Those against? Carried. Somebody call Councillor Cantell back in. Thank you. How did he go? I will keep it moving and he will walk in, I'm sure, as we are talking. Here we are. Welcome back, Councillor Cantell. Okay, item 3 is the 2021 SRV Community Grant Program Cricket, to be moved by Councillor Nelson and seconded by Councillor Howard. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The current state government has a program called the Community Cricket Program, which is a great program that gives local cricket clubs a maximum of $200,000 to each council to be distributed amongst clubs to rebuild clubs that are struggling and need funds to grow. And council has put forward 2 clubs. One club is St Leonard's Cricket Club for some irrigation works. It's the only club in the GCC that doesn't have proper irrigation for their sporting facilities. So that's one club being put forward for the grant, and the other one is the South Barwon Cricket Club for nets and the practice facility. That's a massive club down there, really big and used by a lot of people. So they're the 2 facilities being put forward. It's a great program by the state government, and hopefully they'll put more money into this great program, because cricket's struggling at the moment, and we need as much funds put into it for both males and females. I'll leave it there to my fellow councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Councillor Howard.
I concur with the comments of Councillor Nelson. It's a touch of irony, particularly with the South Barwon Cricket Club and at the South Barwon Reserve. It wasn't that long ago that the Vic Roads were bulldozing 4 lanes of traffic through there, but common sense has prevailed. We now see a really good outcome with the Barwon Edge duplication, which we hope comes on soon, and obviously the South Barwon Cricket Club and the Marshall Cricket Club. And I think even Alexander Thompson plays some cricket down there, so it's a bit of a cricket mecca in that part of the world. And it's a fantastic facility, so it's good to see these community grants putting money into development of infrastructure, much needed infrastructure there and down at St Leonard's, which also has been underdone for many years. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Harwood. Councillor Grisbeck and Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I agree with both the comments that have been made, but also the comment that Councillor Nelson made about the investment in cricket. We haven't seen the large investment in cricket for a long time, and this smaller ground has obviously precluded some of the investments that we would have liked to have put up. If it was, say, $500 or $1 million, we had probably a whole list of facilities that we would like to upgrade. So I agree with Councillor Nelson. We need to try and encourage more funding into cricket at this point. It is a great sport and one I like to watch from the sidelines. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Grisbeck. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. I'd just like to quickly thank the officers for seizing the opportunity, especially in terms of St Leonard's, where I've been aware that they are the poor old country cousin down there, and they have been complaining over the last 2 years about their lack of water and their drainage problems. So it was a bit on the radar, and the officers seized that opportunity, for which I'm grateful.
Lovely. Hear. Thank you, Councillor Mason. Any other comments? Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. Yeah, I'll just echo the comments on Councillor Mason in regards to St Leonard's and the Lake Reserve, a very worthy area. We've managed to get their water turned on. Now it's time for the drainage that'll really create the perfect pitch, or ground rather, for cricket to go forward for the next season. We all know how much these clubs have struggled for the last 12 months with memberships and whatnot. So anything we can do to get our sporting clubs into a safe environment so that they can proceed in the next year would be fantastic. So happy to support.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Any other comments on this one? Back to Councillor Nelson to close.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not much more other than to say that facilities are really important. Cricket facilities are really important for the cricket fraternity. Water, you wouldn't think water would be such a problem at cricket ovals, but every October it rains and you need to get that water off the grounds, and without the proper irrigation works, you can't get that. That reminded me of Councillor Harwood. I used to play I still play for Alexander Thompson, and our number 3 ground down at South Barwon is where we used to play. And I'm trying to get that up to Tim Hill just to be closer to our club. But every year that floods, and every year we keep complaining about needing more money to fix the infrastructure there. So, as I said before, it's a great program by the state government, but if we can get some more, that'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Okay, all those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 4 is the Power Core lease substation site at 137 to 149 Mercer Street, Geelong, to be moved by Councillor Aitken, and I will second this one. Thank you, Councillor Aitken.
Thank you very much, Mayor Asher. This is really a procedural motion that we have to actually undertake. The council administration building that is proposed to be constructed and under construction at the Mercer Street site does need a significant upgrade in terms of power to the site. There is no site locations that are in the public domain for that that substation, so it actually is built within the building, and we enter into a lease as the current owners of that building. We actually enter into a lease with Powercore for that site, and this is a procedural motion for us to actually advertise our intent to enter a lease agreement with Powercore.
Thank you, Councillor Aitken. It's all about putting it out to public notice, and submissions are invited, incidentally, and they will be heard by our submissions review panel, chaired by Councillor Grisbeck, if there are any. So, and I gather it's proposed to be a 30-year lease as well, consistent with other Powercore arrangements. So are there any other comments on this one? It's a procedural piece, as Councillor Aitken has noted. Would you like to close with anything further? Lovely. Thank you, Councillor Aitken. We'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 5 is adopt the sustainability policy and an update of the Sustainability Advisory Committee, to be moved by Councillor Maloney, and I will second this one too. Councillor Maloney.
Mayor Asher, this report asks Council to adopt the sustainability policy, a guiding document that aims to further the city's ongoing efforts and commitment towards becoming a sustainable city region. The policy will support the delivery of the Sustainability Framework and Action Plan, which you might have seen on our website, which was adopted by Council last year. This document outlines the key areas for the City to focus on and explains what actions we need to undertake in each area, including environmental, financial and social. In order to be sustainable, the proposed policy outlines the actions that the City will undertake in all these areas, including the best outcomes that we need to deliver for community interests. This includes things like embedding sustainability in everything we do as a general principle and an overall theme for our organisation, demonstrating and showing the City's commitment to what sustainable thinking means and reporting on it regularly, as well as building strategic partnerships that will enhance not only our council but our community groups and generate awareness. I ask that council consider this policy adoption as the first of many steps towards adopting a clever and creative resolution to a global issue that affects us now and into the future.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. Very well expressed. There's been a lot of confusion about what each element of the City of Greater Geelong approach to sustainability actually means, and I originally proposed the sustainability framework to make sure that at Greater Geelong we took a more complete and holistic approach to managing our future responsibly, because there wasn't really a plan and there wasn't an organisation-wide understanding of what sustainability in totality means. So, and it is much more than just a response to climate change, although of course that is very real and a very big issue to address. Not least because climate change, along with worldwide pandemics and global economic crises, have a very real effect on our community, our local community's health, and the City of Greater Geelong's financial position, as well as the obvious environmental impacts. So in recognition of that sort of bigger picture of sustainability, the framework is the bones and the foundation, the governance backdrop to each of the plan of action and each set of targets as well. And the policy is where we are at this point, and this is, as Councillor Maloney very beautifully articulated, a set of principles just to make sure as well that it's more than one or two teams at the City that are doing the heavy lifting. It's to embed those principles within the organisation that make it really clear that sustainability is about being an enduring organisation that will survive and also help our local communities to thrive as well. And in this piece as well, we have the update on the Sustainability Advisory Committee, which I know the team is as eager to launch as I am. I can't wait to have a team of community representatives with the passion and expertise to put together some really serious targets that compel this organisation and inspire our community as well to set the standard for social, environmental and financial responsibility. And the first agenda items for the Advisory Committee, which I'm very honoured to chair, will be a focus on setting targets and establishing working groups to lead the climate change response and also supporting a circular economy. And I'm hoping that my trusty committee deputy, Councillor Maloney here, may take the lead with at least one, if not both of those working groups. So on that note, I'm really thrilled to see this taking shape and to endorse the motion. Do we have any other comments on this one? Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. To integrate sustainability consciousness throughout the institution and all of our activities is really fundamental to sustainability, and this is a great step forward, and I fully endorse it. The 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals, deliberative engagement, durable environmental issues, community and governance policies all contribute to this, and these are the principles that you were just mentioning. So it is a great step forward, and I look forward, of course nothing's perfect, and in 4 years' time we'll be doing a review of this policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Any other comments on this one? Back to Councillor Aitken.
Look, I will say something because it actually deserves to be a comment made to it. This is probably one of the most meaningful and significant policy positions that the former council actually put forward, and this council has inherited it. So I hope Councillor Maloney at some stage thanks us for all the work that we've done over the last 18 months, because we've given her a great platform and agenda to actually marry with her political and electoral campaign. It really is significant because it is actually about our future and the future of our region. All of it, it was born from a political movement wanting to declare a climate emergency, And I'm really proud of how we've responded with this particular document, policy, and the establishment of the committee. And it is also heartening with the recent election of the new USA president that the USA is now back, which is one of our world powers, is now back at the table of discussing sustainability and the impact that we as humans make on the earth and the world. So we are in a far better and significant position to what we were when the decision was, the community demanded us to make a decision about climate emergency. And this document and policy that's presented finally to us tonight is a reflection of significant work, meaningful work, and a reflection of the importance that sustainability and how we live in Geelong for the future in the region, and a framework for how we actually do that and exist. And it is encouraging that the administration has actually clearly adopted and understood the significance of a sustainability policy, where nearly every piece of work that they're now doing, they're actually looking for how they can actually refer it to the sustainability policy. And that's a very good thing, Mayor Asher.
Thank you, Councillor Aitken. Councillor Mansfield.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. Just to add to the discussion that's been had, I think there's some excellent aspirations and principles outlined in this policy, and if fully adopted, should lead us to be, I think, making some very responsible and sustainable decisions going forward. It's not only the organisation staff that we're hoping will take on these principles and embed them in their work and decision making, but also it's essential for this to be meaningful. In order for this to be meaningful for councillors themselves to take these principles on board in our decision making. There are some, all of them are very important, but just to highlight some of the very, I think some of the principles that really stood out to me, and the ones that will be a challenge for all of us and the whole organisation going forward, will be about ensuring that our decisions have equal consideration of social, economic and environmental issues and are informed by the best available evidence and understanding of global, national, state and regional issues. So that emphasis on evidence, I think, is something that's critical and something we really need to keep in mind when we're dealing with some of the challenges that we are, and will compel us to make some difficult decisions at times. There's also a commitment to using deliberative engagement to understand the community needs and expectations and use this to inform what we do and how we do it. And that really speaks to how we need to be working with the community in a meaningful way to help inform the work that we do as a council. And I really look forward to seeing how that evolves over this term in council. And finally, just to show our commitment to sustainable thinking by reporting regularly to our community on our sustainability performance, the status of our actions and the progress towards our targets. And again, I think regular reporting to our community and being very transparent about our progress will be essential for ensuring that this sustainability framework is acted on, and that we are held accountable for its implementation and its effectiveness over time. So I really look forward to seeing how this affects the work that we do as councillors, as well as the organisation as a whole moving forward.
Councillor Mansfield. Any other comments on this one? Back to Councillor Maloney to close.
Mayor Asher, thanks to my fellow councillors for all the heavy lifting in bringing this document to fruition. I appreciate all the workouts that must have gone behind the scenes, and to the officers as well that procured this policy and build it into shape. I think that, as Councillor Mansfield mentioned, it's our deliberative community engagement that has actually shown that we are listening to the concerns of the constituents and also taking responsibility in addressing the issue of climate change. Thank you so much to those of you who have pushed for change. We are listening and we are acting. Thank you.
Thank you, Maloney. So I'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 6 is another procedural piece. It's the council to staff delegation to be moved. We have a mover for this one. Councillor Sullivan. I'm happy to see, or Councillor Grisbeck, you put your hand up. You can second this one. Great, thank you, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. This is a requirement under the Local Government Act 2020 to provide delegation to council's powers, duties and functions under the Act, and I'm happy to have it as read. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Grisbeck.
I've got nothing to add. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sullivan, finished there?
Nothing further to add, Madam Mayor.
Okay, we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7 is a planning authorisation, council to staff, to be moved by Councillor Grisbeck and seconded by Councillor Harwood. Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and Councillor Harwood and I are going to tag team here. This planning authorisation is asking us to authorise 3 new staff in the planning department. We, as authorised officers, we're under the Planning and Environment Act. This is a normal process. This is something that we're very pleased. We've got 3 additional staff in the planning team, and I think I'll leave it to Councillor Harwood to say their names.
Thanks, Councillor Grisbeck. Councillor Harwood. The glory shot, I think they call it.
Madam Mayor, I will have a crack. We'll be appointing Adrian Goluboski, Admin Tech Officer, Sophie Williams, a Town Planner, and Tatian Linley. I'm not too sure if I apologise if I got that wrong, but as a student planner, so we look forward to them coming to council and working in, I guess, arguably the hardest area of council on occasions.
Yes,
Thank
indeed.
you.
Thank you, Councillor Harwood. Any comments on this one? Back to Councillor Grisbeck to close.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is why Councillor Harwood and I make a great team in the planning portfolio. Nothing further, Madam Mayor.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 8 is the revocation of flood-prone area designation of new lots at Armstrong Waters Estate, Stage 7, to be moved by Councillor Nelson and seconded by Councillor Maloney. So, Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is used to take place by our previous councillor, Councillor Maloney. So, welcome aboard, Councillor Maloney. You can take the lead on this after this one. This is something that is quite prevalent down in Armstrong Creek, where council has an obligation to declare area prone to flooding under the Building Regulations Act 2018, and conversely it has an obligation to declare it when we remove them. So this is for 291 to 411 Charlemont Road. There's around 67 lots there that now will be not subject to flooding, which is great for those people down on Eagle Road, etc., Jacana Way. Their insurance will be cheaper and they'll be able to sleep well at night, knowing that they're not subject to a 1 in 100 year flood.
Great, thank you, Councillor Nelson. Councillor Maloney, welcome to flood revocations.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson and Mayor Asher. It's such an interesting topic, and it's important to revise these over time as our flood mapping is in keeping with the impact of our new development, and especially things like earthworks and appropriate drainage, which is something I'm extremely passionate about since my City Works tour, and understanding the depreciation of these really important assets. It's important to circumvent flooding, which is also something that's a concern for us all, given the sustainability framework touches on with the impacts of climate change and also the increased risk of extreme rainfall and conditions. So thank you for the consideration of this revocation, and nothing further. Thank you, Mayor Asher.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. Any other comments? Councillor Harwood.
Quick comment. We had some substantial rain recently, so I actually went down through the area to have a look at what the effect was going to be, and I can say the drainage down there is remarkable. It did extremely well. Yes, there were some pockets of water laying around, but you would expect that with such a deluge. So it was nothing out of the ordinary. There's been some, I guess, some anecdotal sort of comment about it'll flood out there and the drainage won't work. But I can honestly say firsthand that is not the case from what I have seen after a considerable downfall in very recent times. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised, and particularly along Barwon Heads Road, the drainage along there is of a very high standard.
Was that last Friday when we had a month's rain in a day?
It came down in cats and dogs in the old term, but I was actually expecting more flooding issues. But yeah, there were some backyards would have been flooded for sure. Anywhere would have been flooded with that deluge. But overall, a really good result, and it looks like we have got the drainage issue reasonably well in hand.
Yeah, great, thank you. And it's good for everybody to know that us councillors do go and check these things as well. Okay, anyone else got any comments on this one? Go to Councillor Nelson to close.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, you do need to go and check yourself, because if you look on Google Maps, it still shows a paddock. So you need to go and check these out yourself.
Don't trust the internet, Councillor Nelson. Okay, we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 9 is a confidential, going into confidential. It's the grants, the community infrastructure grants, and I need a mover and seconder to consider this matter in confidential. Moved Councillor Aitken, seconded Councillor Mason. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Okay, now to the exciting part, Section C, notices of motion. Councillor Cantell is bringing a notice of motion, State School Outdoor Sporting Facilities. So thank you, Councillor Cantell, for presenting this. Can I have a seconder to move? Councillor Grisbeck. Okay, Councillor Cantell, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, my notice of motion relates to outdoor sporting facilities at state schools. There's been some discussion today, already in our first meeting back at Council, but these discussions are not foreign to this Council. We've been talking about these types of challenges for decades, and that is in relation to community infrastructure or keeping up with the demands of the community and the growth that we have in our municipality. Councillor Nelson mentioned it in his petition tonight that we're struggling to keep up with the demands of the community in terms of a skate park, and this is prevalent throughout Geelong, and I won't be telling you anything new that this will continue to be an issue. And yet here we are as councillors, as a council, local government, along with state government and federal, spending millions and millions of dollars every year trying to build enough infrastructure to provide our community, and you know what? We will never build enough infrastructure to keep up with the demands. And yet there is a potential solution, and this solution is part of the notice of motion that's here tonight. And it's not my idea. This idea was inspired, and this notice of motion was inspired by parents, mothers and community members, particularly in the north and of the Whittington area. And I must suggest that they were very gracious in their recommendations, identifying that the community infrastructure exists, but it's not accessible. And what they mean by that is that in some of these areas where our community is finding it a bit tough with transportation, could be financial challenges, could be a whole range of things, they aren't able to get to some of the council facilities. And the facilities that do exist in the current state school system and private schools, such as basketball courts, netball courts, downball, all of those facilities that are outside on the tarmac are closed at the end of the school day, and they're closed on weekends, which actually surprised me, I must admit. And their idea was, if you just simply made those assets available to us after hours, our children could actually go and use them. And we know what the benefits of that is, whether they be health, mental health or other. And so that's what's inspired this notice of motion tonight, is requesting that Council write to state government representatives to advocate for increased community access to outdoor state school sporting infrastructure outside of school hours and during school holidays and weekends, to allow for increased usage of such assets for the health and wellbeing pursuits for children. I'll have more to say on that in the closing, but for now I'll leave it to others to talk to the notice of motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cantell. Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. When we spoke to Councillor Cantell and he was suggesting that he might put this notice of motion up, a little light bulb went off in my head and said, this is absolutely what we should be doing. I know Council over previous years before I was a councillor Council have contributed to many facilities on Department of Education land and sort of gone sharing those facilities where the Department of Education might paid half and Council's paid the other half, so that we can get access to those facilities. We pool our resources together. Usually that is a win-win for the community. In recent times, we have seen, and I've seen it in my own ward in Windermere, that school facilities are being fenced for safety reasons, and I can understand those safety reasons, but it also impacts on the ability for community to use those facilities, which Council has invested in many, many times. So this notice of motion talks about all outdoor facilities, not just ones Council has contributed to, but what we're saying is that we should work together with the state government to try and open up some of those facilities for our communities to use. A real live example, I was down at the local high school this afternoon and picking up my sons, who should have ridden their bikes, but they didn't. But I was looking to go into the school to have a look at these netball courts that Council has funded. I couldn't actually get in there because it is fenced off. Now, that then stops the local sporting club getting access to them. It stops general community members getting access to them. We need to come up with a way of being able to leave these types of infrastructure open for everyday use. And so I really thank Councillor Contell for bringing this to the chamber, and I am supporting the notice of motion. Thank you.
Councillor Grisbeck. Other comments on this notice of motion? Councillor Aitken.
Look, I want to thank both Councillor Contell and Councillor Grisbeck for bringing this motion before us. I support the intent and principle of what's being undertaken, but I actually think Councillor Contell should also consider this idea actually didn't come from myself. It actually came from being an avid reader of Councillor Contell's social media, because he actually does set a high benchmark for all councillors in Geelong of how you actually engage with the constituents. And it was actually a very strong argument was presented that it shouldn't actually just be state schools that we should be considering. And in fact, it is correct that I hope that we actually look at also encouraging our non-government school sector to actually consider their facilities as well too, because the state and federal governments are significant funders into our non-government school system as well too, not just the state school system. And if we are committed to the principle about creating an active Geelong and having health and wellbeing opportunities everywhere throughout the community, I would like Councillor Contell to consider at a future meeting to probably bring a notice of motion that actually expands on this principle to actually encourage that both the state and federal government, that if they are contributing community funds for infrastructure at non-government schools as well too, that we ask that same principle that we're asking tonight about state government facilities, that those non-government school facilities also be made available for the health and wellbeing benefit of the Geelong community if there is funds put into it by the state, local or federal purse. And I think it would enhance what Councillor Contell is attempting to try to do. Yeah.
Councillor Aitken, do we know if the non-government school facilities are locked as well? Because it's only the state ones that have started being locked, to my knowledge.
By and large,
I think they're all different. Yeah. Just a question. Councillor Murray.
I take Councillor Aitken's comments and actually agree with those. I was going to raise that myself. There's certainly a lot of government funding that goes into some of those schools, but some of those schools their facilities are used by sporting clubs. So it won't be new to them to have an approach. In fact, the schools that I'm thinking of, they're all used by outside clubs, their facilities for training purposes and to actual play sport over 7 days. So it does happen out there at the moment, but perhaps with a little nudging it might increase. I'm certainly supportive of this motion. It's one of those motions that just makes sense. You know, you drive around the town and you actually see kids playing in school grounds. Now, they're on, basketball courts or netball courts, but there are some facilities, as you've stated, that are, I guess, inaccessible to the public and effectively locked away. They may be not open, but it may be not closed either, but you just can't gain access to them. So I'd be encouraged if there's any, when it comes back to you, Councillor Contell, to make any comments in relation if there's been any discussions with the Education Department or perhaps the local members in regards to their thoughts on this. But certainly it's if any facility is closed and there's kids that could be using it, it's not sport. So I'm supportive of this motion.
Councillor Murray. Councillor Harwood.
Madam Mayor, I certainly support the notice of motion. I just speak from an experience a few years ago where council invested in a local school for netball, lighting and improving the amenity there. And it was very much at the discretion of the principal at the time, so I'm not too sure what the current format is in relation to allowing outside personnel to use the facilities, but I just found that an interesting scenario. But again, and it worked well, but of course there were issues of security and cleaning and things you would expect. So I think the notice of motion is a great start to the conversation, but we'll also have to factor in there will be other issues and other things attached to getting the access that we're talking about. And I think if we're looking at existing clubs extending their capacity to train and play, that probably has a better opportunity than just, I guess, randomly open up a facility just for random people to come in and play whatever sport it might be. But I think it's a good idea, it's a good starting point, and I think if it is the discretion of principals, that again will provide a really interesting discussion to be had.
Councillor Harwood. Any other comments on this one? Go, Councillor Nelson.
Yeah, just listening to the comments around the table, and as the older councillors know, we've been working on co-locating some of our own infrastructure, and this certainly makes sense when you've got cricket seasons and football seasons colliding into each other. One's not finished yet, and the other one's trying to start, and you can't train on this oval because they're training on that oval. It just makes sense. So it's probably more about conversations with our local members than anything. And if we can get that going and get that dialogue, I think it'll be great for the community.
Absolutely. My comments on this one, I fully support this one. I know that in the school holidays in particular, I live right near a very, very close to a primary school, and the facilities were always very regularly used. And it's a community spirit thing. People would gather there, they'd chat, the kids would run around, people would train their dogs, do all sorts of things in the school grounds, which actually was really social. What I've noticed since the locks have been put on the gates is it doesn't actually lock out the troublemakers. It actually just locks out the people who are well behaved and respectful. So you still get the people that turn up at 2 o'clock in the morning doing whatever they're doing, but you don't get the people with their young families and the mums with the dog or the dad with the little kid and playing footy or whatever. So I agree that there's probably they probably started being locked for COVID reasons, I suspect. So there's probably a sort of post-COVID normal middle ground position that we could try and achieve with our state MPs. That would be terrific. And I do think it's schools across the board. I don't think it's state or otherwise. I think just schools, full stop, would what we'd be aiming at. Any others? Comments on this one? Back to you, Councillor Contell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thanks for everyone's feedback. First of all, I'll just touch on Councillor Aitken's feedback. He's right. There was some reasonable engagement on this on social media, which I really appreciated. And that's something I think we can build on with the other schools. I thought this was a good starting point, given our relationship with the state, given that the assets are already funded by the community, fully funded by the community, whether it be through rates or taxes. The funding is public money, and they have the right to use that. Will it come with challenge? Councillor Harwood's absolutely right, and that's been identified also by a number of people. There'll be security, there'll be liabilities, there'll be all those things, but it's not a reason not to do it, because that's a challenge, but so is trying to find enough infrastructure to support our community a challenge, and a costly challenge. So if you think about the investment that goes into that, here is an opportunity to just open up what we already have, but you may have to put measures in place to deal with those things. But I once again really thank the community members that brought this idea, because we always tend to find that the great ideas do come from the community, and in particular I'd like to acknowledge a particular lady that initiated the discussions with me, called Christy Glowacki, who talked to me about her son and how he enjoys playing basketball. They struggle to get to the leisure time centre. They live near Beckley Park. They don't have the transport options available to them readily. They're a hard working class family that do the best they can, but also struggle to provide all the things that they want to be able to provide, like many do, and just saw this as a way of being able to provide social outlet for her children and many of the children that are in that area. And I think that would be a pretty common story that we would hear around Geelong. So she's been a real champion, I think, for the community, and I applaud her for being courageous enough to talk to me about that. So Christy, this one here is for you and all of your friends that need some help. And as Bruce said, I think it's a great way to start the conversation. We've still got a long way to go, but it's a good conversation to have.
Yep, well said. Thank you, Councillor Contell, and thank you for bringing this to us all. So, all those in favour? Those against? Carried. Well done. Okay, Section D is the record of informal meetings of councillors. Can I have a mover and seconder? Moved Councillor Sullivan, seconded Councillor Harwood. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Section E is the planning delegations. May I have a mover and seconder for planning delegations, not decorations? Moved Councillor Harwood, seconded Councillor Grisbeck. Thank you. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Now we need to go into confidential, so I need to move it and second to close the meeting to the public so that we can consider the confidential item in the agenda today. So moved Councillor Sullivan, seconded Councillor Grisbeck. Thank you. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. That's the end of our meeting, our first meeting for 2021. Thank you.